It's estimated that somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 million Americans own an AR-15. That makes it by far the most popular rifle in the country. There are different reasons for owning this rifle, one of which is hunting, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you're included in that 20 million and want to hunt with your AR, then this video is for you. Those somewhat familiar with the traditional 223 or really 5.56 chambering know of its limitations for hunting larger animals like deer and hogs. Most 223 loads struggle to carry even 1,000 foot-pounds of energy to 100 yards. Despite what many of our less educated friends on TV believe, it simply isn't a high-power caliber. But no worries, because there are other calibers which make the AR-15 not only an excellent hunting rifle, but for many, the ideal choice. Today we're going to look at 3 modern hunting calibers for the AR-15, the .22 ARC, 6mm ARC, and 6.5 Grendel. What's cool is to switch to one of these calibers, all you need to do is swap uppers and mags. The AR-15 can't magically become a 300 Win Mag or even a 30-06. Of course, there are AR-10 style platforms for things like the 308, but they're bigger, heavier, and more expensive. Plus, 20 million Americans don't already own one. Let's look at how modern AR-15 calibers perform similar to, or even better than some of the traditional go-to hunting cartridges. You'll see why the AR-15 has become the modern sporting rifle. Digging around the gun cabinet, we found some pretty common rifles everyone is familiar with. A bolt-action 243 and a lever-action 30-30. We don't have a .22-250, but that's another popular contemporary caliber we're going to make some comparisons to. Designed between the late 1800s and mid-1900s, these 3 calibers are tried and true. The .22 ARC, 6mm ARC, and 6.5 Grendel were designed over the last couple of decades and have transformed the AR-15's hunting capabilities. Just looking at them, you can immediately tell they have more in common with each other than they have differences. As we dig into the numbers, you're going to see a lot of overlap in their capabilities. Now, looking at these cartridges alongside the 243 and 30-30, they almost don't seem like they could even be in the same conversation, but that's where looks can be deceiving. People often use the term knockdown power when talking about hunting rifles. You may not know the exact energy numbers of the 243 or the 30-30, but you know from experience how they perform. So let's look at those numbers and compare. In terms of knockdown power, we have to pick some kind of measuring stick. There's more to it than just energy. Things like bullet design are important too. But for the sake of discussion, let's set the bar at 1,000 foot-pounds of energy downrange with a deer hunting style bullet. Let's start with the classic 30-30 Winchester. With a common lead, round-nosed 150 grain bullet like many of us grew up hunting with, this rifle has 1,000 foot-pounds of energy out to about 150 yards. Using a more modern design 160 grain bullet, you can double that range to about 300 yards. The 243 Winchester with a pretty traditional 100 grain soft point bullet has that 1,000 foot-pounds at 375 yards. A lighter but more modern 90 grain bullet can stretch you out to about 400 yards. Now for the modern AR-15 calibers. The 6.5 Grendel with a 123 grain bullet also has 1,000 foot-pounds of energy at 400 yards. With a smaller, lower BC 150 grain all-copper bullet, it still gets you to nearly 300 yards. The 6mm ARC with a 90 grain bullet gets you to 275 yards, and a 103 grain bullet an impressive almost 425 yards. Using lighter bullets with higher velocities, the .22 ARC with a 70 grain gets you to 250 yards, and an 80 grain to 325 yards. So in terms of knockdown power with deer hunting style bullets, you can see how each of these modern calibers stacks up with the contemporary ones. It at least lets us know we're definitely in the right ballpark. If you're a varmint hunter, you're definitely familiar with the .22 250 and 243. Those things have killed a lot of coyotes in the last 70 years. Comparing them to the .22 ARC and 6mm ARC using varmint style bullets, we'll look at where each one hits 700 foot-pounds. The 243 with a 75 grain VMAX gets all the way out to 525 yards. The .22 250 with a 55 grain VMAX out to 325 yards. The .22 ARC with a modern 62 grain ELD VT has 700 foot-pounds at 450 yards. And the 6mm ARC, also with the ELD VT, but an 80 grain, out to 475 yards. Taking a quick glance at trajectories for those 4 different varmint loads, with a 100-yard zero, the 243 and .22 250 are slightly flatter than the ARCs out to 400 yards, but really only by a few inches. At 300 yards, they're all within 2 inches of each other, so once again, we're in the ballpark with these smaller but more modern AR-15 calibers. The ARCs and Grendels have a very nice variety of factory loads available for them. For varmint hunting, depending on the caliber you go with, there's options like the tried and true VMAX in 58, 75, and 95 grains, or a more modern high ballistic coefficient 62, 80, and 100 grain ELD VT. Plus you can find loads with 90 grain TNTs and 90 grain Varmageddons. For larger game, again depending on the caliber, there's a 70 and 90 grain CX, 80, 90, and 103 grain ELDX, 123 grain SST, and Barnes has a load with a 115 grain all copper bullet. There are also a variety of 120 plus grain options with Sierra and Nosler bullets as well. Alright, so if you already own an AR-15, then I'm sure you're well aware of how versatile the platform is. So I'm not going to go super in depth here on all the options available for customization, but I am going to highlight a few that stand out to help you build a gun to suit your needs. With barrel lengths commonly ranging from 16 to 22 inches, you can prioritize weight and mobility or maximum velocity and energy. Threaded barrels give you the option for different muzzle devices like brakes, flash hiders, and suppressors. Magazines for the Grendel and ARCs in an AR platform give you capacities of 5, 10, 15, and 20 rounds or more. Handguards with Picatinny rails and M-LOK systems make it very easy for mounting anything from lights, lasers, arc rails, bipods, or quick detach sling mounts. They come in a variety of styles and lengths, and the options here are darn near endless. While bolt and lever guns transfer all the recoil to the shooter, an AR-15 has a buffer and spring system and uses energy from firing to auto-load the rifle, which in turn greatly reduces the felt recoil to the shooter. With different weight buffers and adjustable gas blocks, you can tune the gun to specific loads and for suppressed or unsuppressed fire. There are many different options for fitting the individual shooter with things like stocks, grips, and controls. With stocks, you can choose between a very solid fixed rifle stock or carbine stocks where you can quickly and easily adjust the length of pull for what you need. With controls, there are tons of options like ambidextrous selector switches and charging handles, as well as extended mag releases and takedown pins. Triggers are another component for which you have a lot of options. The drop-in replacement market is full of single-stage and two-stage choices in a variety of pull lengths. When you take the adaptability of the AR-15 and combine it with the modern, more powerful calibers, you can see why it's become so popular with hunters. If you've hung around this long and you're interested in hunting with your AR-15, then you're in luck. GrendelHunter.com has the most options online for customizing uppers in these larger, more modern calibers. So check out our site, shoot us an email, give us a call if you have any questions about specific components. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.